Hello, everyone. This is Loud Ben with coming at you with. I think this will be the first video that I actually post. I've been I've been making videos for a little bit now. Like about a month or so. And but I think this will be the first one I actually upload because my internet's horrible right now. I'm getting internet. Um it's a got a good deal on it. So the guy's doing a bunch of other things first and then coming to me. So who knows when I get it? But it's yeah, so I'm just kind of making a little library of videos. Those will all get uploaded when I have decent internet. But I'll probably do this one first because I want to get it, get it out since the Uberboyos or the Boyo Alert just finished their Aion lectures, which were really phenomenal. If you're if you're interested in this type of stuff at all, just like i.e. the self and Jung's definition of the self and things like that. And if you're, this is honestly the best spot to go. I've been in this stuff for a couple years now, and in terms of not reading it but having people talk about it, they're the ones that actually dig into the nitty gritty and the stuff people don't want to talk about necessarily. And because there's this podcast called Unionthology, it's a great one, which is a lot of Jungian analysts talk about just different Jungian things on, and a lot of them are recordings from the 80s and 90s and early 2000s on just different various topics. But whenever the self comes up, it's not in this way of let's try to figure out a definition of the self, or how do we uh or now with our confrontation with the self, how do we move forward, or how are we supposed to move forward as a collective with that doesn't have a central myth to live by, and what could that myth look like? And as of right now, this is the only place you're going to get it. I would really suggest going through all of their Ion lectures. But now let's say, geez, there's like 30 plus hours here of content. I'm not going to be able to listen to all this. That's too big of a task. I'm not doing that. Okay, fine. I would suggest listening to their final lecture, which is their summary and Q&A, and go to their and listen to part 2 first. That's Jamie Boyo's his summary, which I think is tries to stick much more closer to the text of Jung and what Jung was saying. So listen to that and then start the podcast, and then you'll hear Stefan's answer. And Stefan's is very thought provoking and very interesting. And he starts delving more into the Nietzsche and SJWs and what the new myth could kind of look like moving forward. How artificial intelligence plays into there. Things like that. But I think what something I don't want to say they missed it because I just don't know them that well or anything. I only know them through their Ion lectures. And they also do it in a very entertaining way. It's not dry whatsoever. It's really fun to listen to. So you're not going to be bored listening to it. My wife, who's not, she's not into this stuff the way I'm into this stuff. She's not going to read Jung, and she really just enjoyed listening to the podcast while we were playing Minecraft together, and so it's a fun listen too. So that's really good. So I don't want to say they missed this or anything, but there are specifically 3 books that would be good additions or like the next step to Aion. Which the first one would be another book by Jung, which is An Answer to Job, which he would consider to be a continuation of Aion. And fun fact about that book is that Jung said if he could, he would rewrite all of his works, all of his books, except An Answer to Job. And what's also cool about Aion is, or kind of scary in a way, is that Jung had kind of fallen sick a little bit. He had he just wasn't. Let's just say he was fallen sick, and then he and then he just sat down and just wrote An Answer to Job, and then he got better. He just had to get this thing off his chest. But he was a little apprehensive about it because he knew what type of uh, either criticism or discussion would happen resulting because of his position and everything like that in the community at the time. So he didn't want to write it necessarily, but then it got to a point where he felt like he had to. He at least had to give his opinion, you know. In a couple quotes, he said that I think it's like I think there's two. What did he say one time? He said that someone could probably write this in the front, I mean, in their thing to answer to Job, which is, there is nothing here for the believing Christian. And I think we need to take that sincerely to the point where he's not trying to attack Christianity. He's trying to really, he's trying to be an Israelite. He's trying, one who wrestles with God. That's what he's trying to do. And that's something all of us need to do. All of us need to become Israelites in that sense. And I don't think, most Christians sincerely wrestle with God the way that, maybe even the way God himself needs. And when I say God, I'm speaking of Yahweh here. So that's interesting. Okay, so then the next book, and I don't know exactly what order, these are just books, is The Transformation of the God Image by Edward F. Edinger. It's an elucidation to an answer to Job. And Edward F. Edinger is a Jungian analyst that just recently passed away. Most of his books are from the 80s, from Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And he's really good he really understands and really stays true to Jung's works. I think if he ever diverges, he kind of says, "I'm diverging here" or something. I haven't read this one yet, but it's on my list. If there'll be a lot more content of all of this coming out eventually. But I am steadily working on everything. It's just a matter of internet and all that. And then the next book after that is The Creation of Consciousness, Jung's Myth for Modern Man, also by Edward F. Edinger. And in this, he goes through Answer to Job and Aion and stuff like that too. Doesn't go through it, but definitely tries to lay out what Jung was talking about as the myth going forward that's going to be needed. And it's something to the effect of creating consciousness and this continuation of creating consciousness over and over again. And that's a part of it. And what does that mean? What is a creation of consciousness? Well, consciousness is the union of opposites. And that's a whole thing in and of itself. So I won't go into that, but it's essentially taking two opposites, holding them and walking on the Zarathustra tightrope of it all, where death is on both sides for some reason. And there's meaning and life in the middle. Or at the very least, seemingly there's death. So there's that, the creation of, the creation of consciousness. And then consciousness also means knowing with. So consciousness just as a word is a union of opposites. In a way, it would be the conjunctio oppositorum. The most opposite, or the masculine and the feminine coming together. The knowing, or logos. The science of it. The knowledge. The masculine withness, with connectedness, eros, femininity. It's all of that coming together. So, because then also another way to also put that in an issue that definitely modern man is in is science and religion. And so religion would be more of the connectedness or the linking back, or like the femininity or eros feature, which is weird because once you get into religion, it's very masculine. But then science would be your masculine there, and those would be opposites. Which, if you're able to hold the two of them, you've gained higher perspective, which would be consciousness. Or if you think of consciousness as the watcher, so if you think of that as a perceiver, it's gaining another eye back. It's being or even for yourself, it's being able to think about it in terms of you're in a conversation with someone and you're having that conversation, and when you're fully engaged in that conversation, you're in some sort of, I guess you could call it, an archetype, or you're engaged in with life. But now, sometimes it happens where you can still be in that conversation, but you can go back and you can watch yourself, talking to talking as you're talking. So it's that watcher of it. So now the consciousness is going to be, it's going to keep going back. It's going to keep going back in that creation. Maybe that's probably what he was talking about partly. I mean, this is getting completely I'm just thinking here. What if it's going back all the way back to that point, keep building up eyes of perceiving all the way back to get to that certain, that point of the self, or the center of your own mandala, or the center of your brain. And so until you get there, you're really able to confront the self, and then you're able to have a proper relationship with the self, and have your the archetypes that you embody, or the patterns or forms, and have the self produce the contents, or more specifically, the light of the self producing the contents, and then the bad of the self, I don't, who knows about anything, those get integrated in a proper way as tools, because you have to realize you are both. That's tough, what am I saying here? And I would also say that going through this, they also do a really good job. If you're also like, well, I don't know if I'm up for the challenge of listening to this and figuring this stuff out, because I'm not going to say that's super high level. I hate when people start putting, not hate, I don't hate, but I dislike when people are like, oh, this is too hard, or anything like that. And it's like, you're adding barriers in your mind. You yourself saying things are difficult is making them harder on yourself. It might be hard, but guess what? New things just are hard. And but I digress. With Uberboyo's lectures, they really do a good job of walking you through the necessary understanding you need to properly grasp or wrestle with the content of Aion, which is hugely important, and very, 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 I guess, just awesome. But and then something they talk about in like some of the first episodes is and they kind of talk about it throughout too, but it's the listening to this, you more than likely will get yourself into some sort of cocoon. It kind of will happen. And what I mean by that is it is if you're going to try to properly integrate this stuff, it's a caterpillar to a butterfly. There is this middle transformation period, or this digestation, or this death to have a rebirth. And I think a really important thing to notice, or to note in all of that, is when a caterpillar is in a cocoon, they turn to mush. It's okay to turn to mush. It's okay for a while that you're not going to know right from wrong, that you might not know up from down. You won't know which way is which. And that's 100% okay. What did you expect? How else do you think you are to grow, other than something I've very held on, not held on to, but agree with Jung is, forget everything, inch closer to the truth. Now, I've split myself into two on that. Is I do that. I do. But still, because of my upbringing and everything like that, I still hold on to my Christianity. And at the end of not even that it's different from Christianity, I'm saying that cultural upbringing of Christianity, that I feel like most people kind of understand what I'm talking about, because then even people say like, oh no, there's a difference between Baptists and evangelicals, and it's like, yeah, you're right, but more or less they have a lot of similarities, and the differences I'm talking about with the scope I'm bringing at, they're in the same group. And you know, I still pray at night to that. And uh so I think it's appropriate, and I think you can have this certain life or this certain spot where even if you just need to take it intellectually at first, you know, where it's like, okay, intellectually here in this area I'm mush, I don't know anything, but then with this is how I'm living out my life right now, these are the patterns that I'm doing. um and so I don't feel like it's necessarily like an all or nothing thing. uh, I Yeah. So I guess what I'm trying to say is they have content here that you're not going to get anywhere else. It's very unique, and it's very entertaining too. Um, yeah, so that's I think what I got. This was pretty much just an ad, so for their little podcast, watch it. You're gonna be doing yourself a favor. Um, so yeah, thanks for watching. And I'll have everything in the description for getting to them and for the list of these books and stuff too. So this was Loud Ben, and bye.